Okay, write a word phrase for each algebraic expression. What it's asking us to do is to put something into words so that if someone read our words and they used it to write an algebraic expression, the algebraic expression that they wrote would be what's given, and there's no confusion. Okay, so there's multiple ways you can do this, and I'm going to list several of them. You could say Q plus 5, or you could say the sum of Q and 5, or you could also write Q increased by 5. Those are all legitimate ways to write that. And there, you might come up with something that's slightly different than that. And I can check it if you're not sure what you wrote. If what you wrote is correct, you can ask me and I will check it for you. Or you can ask someone to take your words and see if they can write the proper algebraic expression for it. And if they write what was given to you, then that's a good sign. Okay, number 21. Oh, and by the way, you can see that the way that I cut and pasted these are out of order. Here's 17 first I just did, and now we've got 21, and then 19 and 23. Just check your answers in the proper order that you need to, okay? But number 21 is a two-step problem. So we can say, for example, 1 more than, forgive my writing, I use this stylus that's a little bit tricky to write with, it's got a soft tip. 1 more than, what are we going 1 more than? We're going 1 more than the product of, or the answer to a multiplication problem, the product of the two values 9 and n. That's one way you could write it. Or we could say 9 times n, or let's say, and again, you can write it multiple ways. Let's say n multiplied by 9 then increased by 1. Okay, two possible answers. You're going to need to determine whether your answer is correct. You can ask me if you're not sure. Okay, and that's probably a good idea. So continuing on, we now have number 19. Sorry, I did them out of order the way that I laid them out. This is a multiplication problem. So you can say the product of 12 and x, or you might describe that as the product of x and 12, because remember, there is the commutative property. We can do it in either order. And when we do it, we're always going to put the numerical multiplier, in this case 12, in the front as the coefficient. That's the most sophisticated way to do it. Or you could say 12 multiplied by x etc. There's multiple ways to do it. Okay, and finally, 23. And 23 says, if I read it, I can say 15 decreased by, and how much are we going to decrease it by? We're going to decrease it by, sorry, the program got a little glitchy there. How much are we going to decrease it by? We're going to decrease it by that whole amount, which when you have a division problem, we call the answer the quotient. So we will say 15 decreased by the quotient. And the quotient of what? We always list the top one first, 1.5, and D. And is there another way that we could write it? We could say or, and this is where I mentioned to you that when you say less than, it's different than saying less. We could also say 15 and then less by a certain amount, okay? 15 less the, let's just say the result of 1.5 divided by D, okay? So those are all legitimate answers. And one more, just to spend one more second on this before I wrap it up. There is a difference between less than and less. And I will actually go to another screen here and I will just write that out. Okay, so if we said 15 less x, what you're saying is we've got 15 and you go less by a certain amount. What's the amount that you go less than 15? You go x amount less than that. So we would say that would look like 15 and then you go less by this amount. That's correct. Okay? And you would also maybe see 15 less than. And what does that look like? Well, if you're going less than a certain amount, you start with that certain amount and you go less than that. So the than tells you this is the place we're starting. Okay? Less than x. So how much less than x? 15 less than x. And that looks like that. There's a big difference between the two, and it's very subtle because there's only that one extra word in there, less than. Okay? So less than means start with the thing that follows it, less than what. That what will come first. And then you will go less than that by this amount. Otherwise, it just says 15 and then less by this much. Or we need to reduce that first amount by whatever the second amount is. Okay, so we start with 15 and we say, let's go less by some number x. Watch that again and again until you get it. There, you will see that, and you definitely want to sort that out. And that's kind of I think that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks for these types of problems. So good luck.